On Valentine's Day this year, a 70-year-old man in Florida bought a bag of Reese's Mini Hearts. He took one bite, then another. Then he walked over to his kitchen trash can and threw the whole bag in. That man is Brad Reese. His grandfather invented the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup in 1928. His family sold the company to Hershey in 1963. And what he tasted in that little orange wrapper made him do something no one in the candy industry had done in 60 years. He turned on Hershey publicly. Then, his own family turned on him. This is a story about a chocolate bar that is no longer technically chocolate, about a peanut butter cup that is no longer technically peanut butter, about how a $130 billion industry quietly rewrote the recipe of the most iconic candy in America, blamed it on a drought 4,000 miles away, and kept the change in place long after the drought ended. You're watching Food Files. Let's open a file Hershey really doesn't want you reading. To understand why this story exploded, you have to understand who Brad Reese is. He is not a food critic. He is not an activist. He is the grandson of H.B. Reese, the man who, in 1928, working out of the basement of his house in Hershey, Pennsylvania, dipped peanut butter in chocolate and accidentally invented one of the best-selling candies in human history. In 1963, the Reese family sold the company to the Hershey Company. The deal was, in candy industry terms, the equivalent of selling Manhattan. But the family kept its name on the wrapper, and for 60 years, that wrapper meant something specific. Milk chocolate, peanut butter. 2 ingredients, 1 promise. Brad Reese, who is 70 years old and lives in Florida, took that promise personally. He has been photographed wearing bright orange Reese's branded shirts. His personal website now reads, quote, Brad Reese, protecting Reese's brand integrity, and features an orange baseball cap stamped with the slogan, Make Reese's Great Again. You can already see the trajectory of this man's retirement. But on February 14th, 2026, Brad bought that bag of Reese's unwrapped chocolate peanut butter cream mini hearts. He told the Associated Press, quote, It was not edible. You have to understand, I used to eat a Reese's product every day. This is very devastating for me. He flipped the bag over, and in the ingredient list, he found something that wasn't there when his grandfather was alive. There was no milk chocolate. There was no peanut butter. The label said, chocolate candy and peanut butter cream. Now, those 2 phrases sound like marketing fluff. They are not. They are legal terms. Under FDA rules, you can only call something milk chocolate if it contains at least 10% chocolate liqueur. That's the dark paste made from ground cocoa beans. And you can only call something peanut butter if it's made of at least 90% peanuts. If you don't hit those numbers, you have to call it something else. Chocolate candy means there's no real chocolate in it. Peanut butter cream means there's less than 90% peanuts. And in this specific Reese's product, what replaced the cocoa butter was vegetable oil. What replaced the chocolate was something called compound coating, a waxy, chocolate-flavored substitute that the candy industry uses when actual chocolate gets too expensive. Or, as Brad Reese put it on national television, quote, It was all vegetable oils and fats. That same day, he posted an open letter on LinkedIn addressed to a Hershey executive. He wrote, quote, My grandfather built Reese's on a simple, enduring architecture. Milk chocolate plus peanut butter. Not a flavor idea, not a marketing construct. A real, tangible product identity that consumers have trusted for a century. But today, Reese's identity is being rewritten. Not by storytellers, but by formulation decisions that replace milk chocolate with compound coatings and peanut butter with peanut butter-style creams. The post got 26,000 likes, 820,000 views, and Hershey, sitting up in Pennsylvania, suddenly had a problem. Hershey's defense, in public, has been remarkably consistent. They call it innovation. In a statement to NPR's Planet Money, the company said, quote, "As we've grown and expanded the Reese's product line, we make product recipe adjustments that allow us to make new shapes, sizes, and innovations that Reese's fans have come to love and ask for." Innovations Reese's fans have come to love and ask for. Nobody in the history of recorded human civilization has ever asked for less peanut butter in their peanut butter cup. No focus group has ever raised its hand and said, "You know what's missing from this candy? Vegetable oil." But behind that statement is a real story, and it starts in West Africa. About 70% of the world's cocoa comes from two countries, Ivory Coast and Ghana. Both have been hit by oscillating cycles of drought and damaging rainfall, which researchers at Harvard's Salada Institute have linked to climate change. Cocoa trees are fragile. They don't like extreme weather, and starting in 2023, they got a lot of it. By late 2024, cocoa prices hit an all-time record high. Wall Street speculators piled in, betting on shortages. Then, in early 2025, the Trump administration slapped high tariffs on cocoa-producing nations. For a candy company like Hershey, whose entire business depends on cheap cocoa, it was a perfect financial storm. So Hershey did what any cost-pressured corporation does. It started cutting corners, quietly. The New York Times reporter Claire Brown ran an investigation in October 2025 and found that Hershey had been removing the words milk chocolate from the wrappers of Almond Joy, Mr. Goodbar, and Rolo, replacing them with chocolate candy. Same packaging design, same brand name, same shelf placement, different product. Now, here's where Hershey's argument falls apart. In November 2025, the Trump administration, under pressure over candy prices, exempted cocoa from those tariffs. Hershey itself put out a press release celebrating the exemption. And cocoa prices? They didn't just stabilize. Since May 2025, the global price of cocoa has fallen nearly 80%. 80%. The shortage is over. The speculation has collapsed. The tariff is gone. Cocoa is now cheaper than it was before the drought even started. Hershey's recipe, however, is not. And yet, every single one of those relabeled products is still on shelves. Compound coating? Still in. Vegetable oils? Still in. The innovation that Hershey said was a response to market pressures has now outlived the market pressures by 6 months and counting. That is not a supply chain problem. That is a margin. This is the difference between inflation and skimpflation. Inflation is when a Snickers bar costs more. Skimpflation is when a Snickers bar costs the same but contains less Snickers. Lindsay Owens, executive director of the Groundwork Collaborative, has testified before Congress about this. In a 2024 study, she found that shrinkflation alone accounted for as much as 10% of total inflation in categories like paper towels and snacks. Skimpflation is harder to measure because it's about quality, not quantity. But she warns that when companies degrade ingredients, those replacements are usually more processed, with real health implications for the people eating them. In other words, you are paying the same price, eating something demonstrably worse for you, and the company is pocketing the difference. Here's the part of the story that almost nobody is talking about. Hershey didn't get away with this by accident. They got away with it because they spent years trying to change the law, failed, and then changed the labels instead. Under federal law, specifically the Code of Federal Regulations Title 21, Part 163, milk chocolate has a precise definition. It must contain at least 10% chocolate liquor. It must use cocoa butter as its primary fat. Vegetable oil is explicitly disallowed. Same goes for peanut butter under Part 164. At least 90% peanuts, no substitutes. These aren't suggestions. These are the rules that protect consumers from buying something called chocolate that isn't actually chocolate. For years, the American chocolate industry, including Hershey, lobbied the FDA to change those rules. They wanted the right to swap cocoa butter for vegetable oil and still call the result milk chocolate. They argued it was just modernization. They argued cocoa butter was too expensive. They argued consumers wouldn't notice. The FDA said no. So Hershey's lawyers found a different door. If you cannot legally call your product milk chocolate, you can, apparently, legally call it almost anything else and put it in the same wrapper. The wrapper does most of the talking. If you can't change what milk chocolate means, you can change whether you call it that. Take the same vegetable oil-based formula the FDA refused to let you label milk chocolate, put it in the same orange and yellow wrapper Brad Reese's grandfather designed, but write the words chocolate candy in much smaller text where the consumer doesn't tend to look. You haven't broken the law. You've routed around it. This is, in regulatory terms, a workaround. In moral terms, it's a loophole that depends on consumers not reading their labels carefully enough to notice that the most familiar candy in America has quietly stopped being made of what it says it's made of. And to be clear, this is not just happening to Reese's. The New York Times documented Almond Joy, Mr. Goodbar, Rolo, all Hershey owned, all quietly relabeled. The plain Hershey's milk chocolate bar and the standard Reese's peanut butter cup, for now, still meet the legal definition. Hershey is very specific about that in their statement. The reformulations are happening on the seasonal items, the limited editions, the holiday shapes, products where consumers are buying based on the brand, not reading the fine print. Brad Reese summed it up better than I can on News Nation. Quote, "If it doesn't say milk chocolate, then it doesn't have cocoa butter, and they're using vegetable oils, and they quietly swapped that out." The word quietly is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Now, you would think the rest of the Reese family would be standing behind Brad. The man is, after all, defending the family name on a product that bears the family name. You would be wrong. On April 20th, 2026, in a statement provided directly to Fox News through the Hershey Company's PR team, the rest of the Reese family issued a public denouncement of Brad. Quote, "We would like to make it clear that we have no involvement in, nor do we support, the recent claims made by Brad Reese regarding the Hershey Company. His statements and opinions are entirely his own and do not reflect the view or position of our family. We believe H.B. Reese would take great pride in the products produced under his name today and in the integrity with which the brand continues to be managed." Read that statement again. It was distributed by Hershey. It defends Hershey. It uses the words integrity and pride about a company that, at the same moment, was being publicly accused of removing real chocolate from products bearing the Reese name. And it disowns Brad, by name, on behalf of his own grandfather. H.B. Reese died in 1956. He has not, to my knowledge, issued a recent statement. What we are watching, in real time, is the spectacle of a company that bought a family business in 1963, using the rest of that family 63 years later as a corporate shield against the one family member who refused to play along. That same week, Hershey announced it would phase out compound coatings on certain Reese's and Hershey's products by 2027, bringing them, in their words, in line with their classic milk and dark chocolate recipes. Brad's response on News Nation was 3 sentences long. Quote, "They have the ability to switch back to using real milk chocolate in 3 days. This is all a stunt. They're hoping that the outrage will die down." He's right about the timeline, by the way. Reformulating a candy bar takes weeks. Hershey is asking for a year and a half. And here is what makes this episode of Food Files so worth your time. Because the cocoa drought story, the FDA loophole, the family civil war, all of it is the visible part of the iceberg. None of it explains the most important question. If cocoa prices are down 80% and the tariffs are gone, and Hershey could revert to the original recipes in 3 days, why won't they? The answer is not in Pennsylvania. It's not in the FDA's rule book. It's not even in the Reese family's living rooms. The answer is in West Africa, where 1.5 million children pick the cocoa beans that are supposed to go into your chocolate, where farmers earn 78 cents a day, and where the chocolate industry has spent 25 years making promises about ending child labor and quietly missing every single deadline. That's part 2. The story we just told you ends with Hershey promising to fix things by 2027. The story we're about to tell you ends with promises the chocolate industry has been making since 2001. They haven't fixed those. If you want to know where your chocolate actually comes from and why Hershey is so reluctant to tell you, the next episode is for you. Food Files. We open the files they don't want you reading.